Earth's apex list appeared on screen. The alien reached number 1 and looked at her. The morning sky over Seoul turned dark at exactly 9:47 a.m. People looked up from their phones and coffee cups to see something impossible. Ships. Massive alien ships that blocked out the sun. There were 200 of them. Each one was bigger than the largest building in the city. They hung in the air like dark clouds, silent and threatening. Within minutes, every screen on Earth showed the same thing. Televisions, computers, phones, all of them displayed a single face. The alien was huge. Its skin looked like gray stone, and it had 4 arms crossed over its chest. 2 orange eyes stared out from the screen without blinking. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, Chinese, Spanish, Korean, every language at once. I am Warlord Crevenus of the Volthara Empire. Your planet is now under our authority. You have 72 hours to surrender. Resist, and your cities will burn. Choose wisely. The screens went black. Una Park was drinking tea in her small apartment when the message played. She set down her cup carefully and looked out her window at the ships hanging over the city. She had expected this day might come eventually. Humanity had always been too loud, too obvious. Someone was bound to notice them. Her phone rang. It was Admiral Taeho Kim. You saw it? He asked. Yes, Una said. Get to the UN building. Emergency council in 30 minutes. Everyone's already panicking. Understood. Una changed into her military uniform and took the subway. The trains were still running, which surprised her. People sat in silence, staring at nothing. Some were crying. Others looked angry. A few seemed oddly calm, like they had been waiting for this too. The United Nations Emergency Council building in Seoul was chaos. Representatives from every country pushed through the halls, shouting into phones, arguing with each other. Security struggled to maintain order. Una found her assigned seat in the main chamber. She sat in the back row, away from the important people. Admiral Kim stood at the front with the other high-ranking officers. Ambassador Dong Woo-shin, Korea's chief diplomat, tried to call the meeting to order. Please. We need calm. Dong Woo shouted over the noise. Panic helps no one. Slowly, the room quieted. What do we know? Asked General Taeho Kim. Dr. Ji-won Lee, a xenobiologist, stood up. She was young but brilliant. She had been studying the possibility of alien contact for years. Now her theories were reality. The Volthara Empire, she said. I've checked historical records. There are no matches. This is first contact. But their technology is clearly far beyond ours. Those ships could destroy our entire orbital defense network in minutes. What do they want? Someone asked. Submission, Ji-won answered. It's a common pattern in conquest. Offer peace in exchange for total control. We can't surrender, said Commander Hyeon Su-choi, a special forces operative known for impossible missions. If we give up now, humanity loses everything. If we fight, humanity might not survive at all, countered another general. The argument continued for hours. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight. Most were too afraid to choose either option. Then a second message arrived. It appeared on the main screen in the council chamber. Crevenus again, but this time his tone was different. Almost polite. People of Earth, we understand your hesitation. To help you make an informed decision, we require information. Send us a complete database of your planet. Everything. Your animals, your weapons, your strongest individuals. This is standard procedure. We need to know what we are dealing with. You have 24 hours. The screen went dark again. It's a trap, Hyeon-su said immediately. They want to know our weaknesses. Maybe, Ji-won said. But if we refuse, they might attack immediately. This buys us time. Admiral Kim looked around the room. His face was hard, unreadable. We give them what they want. But we do it smart. Commander Choi, Dr. Lee worked together. Compile the database. Include everything they asked for. But be strategic about how we present it. Yuna watched from the back. No one had asked for her opinion. That was fine. She preferred it that way. Over the next 18 hours, Hyun-soo and Ji-won worked without sleep. They gathered data from every country. Information about tigers, sharks, bears, Earth's apex predators. Details about nuclear weapons, biological warfare, military bases. And finally, the classified files. The names and records of Earth's most dangerous combat operatives. Should we really send this? Hyun-soo asked, looking at the list of names on his screen. We have to send something believable, Ji-won said. If we hide too much, they'll know. Besides, what are they going to do with names and faces? They're already planning to conquer us anyway. Hyun-soo wasn't sure, but he added the military rankings to the database. 10 names. 10 people who represented humanity's best warriors, strategists, and specialist. At position 10 was Colonel Jae-Sung Han, a cyber warfare expert who once crashed an entire nation's power grid in 4 minutes. At position 7 was Major Sua Kwan, a combat pilot with 32 confirmed kills. At position 5 was Hyun-soo himself, though he felt strange adding his own name. 47 successful extractions. 0 friendly casualties. At position 3 was Admiral Tae-ho Kim. His strategic mind had never lost a war simulation. And at position 1 was Lieutenant Yuna Park. Hyun-soo stared at her file. Most of it was redacted. Black bars covered half the page. What little information existed was disturbing. 47 solo missions. 100% success rate. Specialization listed as impossible extractions and asymmetric warfare. Last known operation. Classified at the highest level. Is she really that dangerous? Ji-won asked, looking over his shoulder. I don't know, Hyun-soo admitted. I've never worked with her. I've barely even seen her. But the people who rank these things are never wrong. They sent the database at exactly the deadline. Every piece of information humanity could gather about itself, packaged and transmitted to the Velthara fleet. On the alien flagship, Krevenas received the data. He opened the files and began to read. His officers gathered around, curious about this planet they were about to conquer. They scrolled through images of animals. Lions and crocodiles. Interesting but weak. The Velthara had conquered species far more dangerous. They reviewed the weapons. Nuclear bombs. Chemical agents. Primitive but effective enough to destroy themselves. At least. Then they reached the list of individuals. The ranked humans. Krevenas leaned forward, studying each name carefully. These were Earth's champions. Their best fighters. He scrolled down. Past the commanders, past the pilots, past the strategists. Then he reached number 1. The screen showed a simple photograph. A young woman with dark hair, pulled back in a neat ponytail. She wore a military uniform but looked more like a teacher than a soldier. Her expression was neutral, almost bored. Her eyes looked directly at the camera without emotion. Lieutenant Yuna Park, age 28. Krevenas felt something. Strange recognition. He had seen her before. He pulled up the footage from the UN Emergency Council. There, in the back row, sitting quietly while everyone else panicked and shouted. She had not spoken once during the entire meeting. Had not even moved much. Just sat there, watching. This was Earth's most dangerous person? Krevenas looked at her file again. The details were minimal. Most of the document was hidden behind black security bars. But what little existed made him pause. Sub-Commander Thren, he called to his intelligence officer. What do you make of this? Thren studied the file. Could be an error in their ranking system, sir. She doesn't fit the profile of a warrior. But Krevinas was not so sure. In his 40 years of conquest across the galaxy, he had learned one important lesson. The most dangerous beings rarely look the part. He saved Unipark's file to his personal database and marked it with a red flag. Something to watch carefully. The 72-hour deadline was approaching. Soon, Earth would have to make its choice. Surrender or fight. Krevinas looked at the image of Unipark one more time. Prepare the ultimatum, he told his officers. And send surveillance drones to track this one. I want to know where she is at all times. On Earth. Una finished her tea and looked out at the alien ship still hanging over Sol. She had a feeling she would be meeting their commander very soon. She was not wrong. Earth's list appeared on screen. The alien reached number 1 and looked at her. Krevinas stood in his command chamber, studying the Earth database with growing interest. His officers moved around him, preparing for the final ultimatum. In just 12 hours, humanity would give their answer. Surrender or destruction. But Krevinas was distracted. He kept returning to the list of ranked humans. Something about it bothered him. Show me number 10 again, he said to his tactical display. The screen changed to show Colonel Ji Sun-han. The file described him as a cyber warfare specialist. He had once infiltrated and destroyed an enemy nation's entire computer infrastructure in under 5 minutes. Impressive for a primitive species. Not a physical threat, said Sub-Commander Thren. A technical one. We can counter that easily. Krevinas nodded and moved to the next entry. Major Suo Kwan, a pilot. 32 confirmed kills in aerial combat. Her record showed she had never been shot down, never lost a single dogfight. Skilled, Krevinas admitted. But our fighters are faster and better armed. She would last seconds against us. He continued through the list. Each human had impressive accomplishments for their level of technology, but none of them seemed particularly dangerous to an empire that had conquered 300 worlds. Position 5 was Commander Hyan-Su Choi, the same man who had helped compile this very database. 47 successful rescue missions behind enemy lines. 0 casualties among friendlies. The file noted he had once walked into a hostile military base, extracted 6 prisoners, and walked out without firing a single shot. Creative, Thren said. But creativity only goes so far against superior firepower. Position 3 was General Tae-ho Kim, Strategic Commander. The file called him a tactical genius who had never lost a wargame simulation in 20 years. He had written 3 books on military strategy that were studied in every war college on Earth. Krevinas respected this one. A good mind for war. But even the best strategists needed an army worth commanding. Earth's military forces were laughable compared to the Velthara. Then he reached position 1 again. Unipark. Krevinas stared at her photograph. She looked so ordinary. Small build, maybe 60 kilograms at most. Calm expression. Nothing about her appearance suggested danger. No scars, no augmentations, no signs of the warrior, but her file. That file. 40-7 solo missions. Not rescue missions like Commander Choi. Solo missions. Operations she had completed entirely alone. And the success rate was 100%. No failures. No captures. No close calls. Her specialization was listed as impossible extractions and asymmetric warfare. Krevinas knew what asymmetric warfare meant. It meant fighting in ways the enemy did not expect, using their strengths against them, turning advantages into weaknesses. The last entry in her file made him pause. Last known operation, redacted. Result, redacted. Casualties, redacted. Current status, active. Everything was hidden. But something about those black bars suggested the operation had been significant. Important enough to hide completely. Pull up surveillance on her current location. Krevenas ordered. A screen appeared showing a live feed from a drone hovering over Seoul. It focused on a small apartment building. 5th floor, 3rd window from the left. The camera zoomed in through the window. Yuna Park sat at a small table, reading a book. A cup of tea sat beside her, steam rising gently. She looked completely relaxed. Like there were no alien warships hovering over her city. Like the world was not about to end. She's not at a military base? Krevenas asked. No, sir, replied the surveillance officer. She returned to her apartment after the UN Council meeting. She hasn't left since. She ordered food delivery 6 hours ago. She's been reading and tending to her plants. Krevenas watched her turn a page in her book. So calm, so unbothered. What is she reading? The officer enhanced the image. It appears to be a book on game theory and strategic thinking, sir. Of course, it was Commander Thren moved closer. Sir, I must question this ranking. Perhaps the humans made an error. Or perhaps this is disinformation. She doesn't match any warrior profile in our database. That's what concerns me, Krevenas said quietly. He had been a warrior for 40 years. He had fought on 50 worlds. He had faced creatures twice his size with acid blood. Telepathic hive minds that could coordinate attacks perfectly, and silicon-based life forms that could not be. Killed with conventional weapons. And he had learned one. Universal truth. The most dangerous opponent is the one who doesn't need to look dangerous. Tell me about the missions we can read, Krevenas said. Pulling up Yuna's file again, the officer scrolled through the few unredacted entries. Mission 17. Infiltration of hostile compound. Objective. Retrieve stolen biochemical weapon. Status. Success. Method. Redacted. Time elapsed. 4 hours. Enemy casualties. 0. Friendly casualties. 0. Krevenas frowned. She retrieved a weapon from a hostile compound and no one died? Correct, sir. How? Method is redacted, sir. Another entry appeared. Mission 23. Extraction of political prisoner from maximum security facility. Status. Success. Method. Redacted. Time elapsed. 2 hours. Enemy casualties. 0. The prisoner did not realize they had been extracted until they woke up safe at home. They thought they had dreamed the entire experience. Krevenas felt a chill run down his spine. That was not combat. That was something else entirely. That was art. Mission 31. The officer continued. Neutralization of terrorist cell planning attack on civilian population. Status. Success. Method. Redacted. Time elapsed. 6 hours. Result. Terrorist cell disbanded voluntarily. No arrests made. No shots fired. Threat eliminated permanently through psychological manipulation. She talked them out of terrorism? Thren asked, incredulous. Apparently so, sir. Krevenas studied the photo again. Yuna Park sipped her tea on the screen, still reading her book. Still completely calm. What kind of soldier is this? He wondered aloud. Perhaps not a soldier at all, said his science officer, Vectar. Perhaps something more subtle. Humans have a word for it. Spy. Infiltrator. Ghost. Ghosts don't have 47 successful missions, Krevenas said. Ghosts get caught eventually. Everyone does. He paused. Except her. The bridge fell silent. Officers exchanged glances. They were all thinking the same thing. If this human could walk into hostile compounds, extract prisoners without anyone noticing, and disband terrorist cells through conversation alone, what could she do to them? Double surveillance on her, Krevenas ordered. I want to know every move she makes, every person she talks to, everything. Sir, the ultimatum deadline is in 12 hours, Thren reminded him. Should we not focus on Earth's response? Krevenes looked at his second-in-command. Earth's response doesn't matter. They have two options, surrender or die. Either way, we win. He gestured to the screen showing Yuna. But her? She's a variable. Variables are dangerous. The hours passed slowly. On Earth, governments debated. Military leaders argued. Citizens protested in the streets, though many had simply gone home to be with their families. The end felt inevitable. But in Seoul, in a small apartment on the 5th floor, Yuna Park finished her tea and closed her book. She stood and walked to her window, looking up at the alien ships. On the Volthara flagship, Krevenes watched her through the surveillance feed. Their eyes met or seemed to. She could not possibly see the drone. It was too small, too high. But for just a moment, it felt like she was looking directly at him. She smiled. Just slightly. Just enough. Then she turned away and began watering her plants. Krevenes felt something he had not felt in many years. Unease. Sir, said his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from Earth's UN Council. Put it through. The screen changed to show Ambassador Dong Wuxin. He looked tired, defeated. Warlord Krevenes, Dongwu said. The nations of Earth have made their decision. And? Krevenes prompted. Dong Dashwu took a deep breath. Krevenes expected surrender. It was the logical choice. The only choice that made sense. But then the ambassador spoke, and his voice was steady. We refuse your offer. Earth will not surrender. We will not submit. If you want our planet, you will have to take it by force. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Krevenes' officers stared at the blank screen in shock. No species had refused the Volthara in 300 years. Not one. Those who tried were destroyed so thoroughly that nothing remained. Not even ruins. They refused, Thren said, disbelief in his voice. They actually refused. Krevenes said nothing. He pulled up the surveillance feed of Yuna Park again. She was still watering her plants, humming softly to herself. Did she know? He wondered. Did she advise them to refuse? He checked the UN Council records. Yuna had not spoken during the decision meeting. She had not even been in the room. She had stayed in the hallway outside, waiting. But waiting for what? Prepare orbital strike, Krevenes ordered. Target an uninhabited area. We'll show them what refusal means. His weapons officer worked the controls. Target selected, sir. Small island in Pacific Ocean. No population. Strike ready. Fire. A beam of blue energy shot down from the flagship. It hit the island in the Pacific and vaporized it instantly. Water rushed in to fill the crater. Within seconds, the island was gone. Erased from existence. On Earth, every screen showed the destruction. People screamed. Some fainted. Others wept. But in her apartment. Earth's apex list appeared on screen. The alien reached number 1 and looked at her. The Pacific island was gone. Turned to vapor in less than 3 seconds. The message from the Volthara was clear. This is what happens when you refuse us. But Earth did not change its answer. At military bases around the world. Soldiers prepared for war. They knew they could not win. Fighter jets took to the skies. Submarines dove deep into dark water. Missile silos opened their doors. It was all useless against the technology hovering above them, but humans did it anyway. Because surrender was not in their nature. In the Seoul UN building, Admiral Tae-ho Kim stood before a room full of terrified representatives. His face showed no fear, though he must have felt it. We have activated Protocol Black Sky, he announced. Silence. Everyone knew what that meant. Black sky was the contingency plan for alien invasion. Every military on Earth would go dark. Communications would be scrambled. Satellites would reposition. Command centers would go underground. Earth was making itself as difficult to fight as possible. "They'll destroy us," someone said weakly. "Maybe," Tejo replied, "but we'll make them work for it. Every hour we survive is one more hour for our scientists to find a weakness. One more hour for us to learn." "Learn what?" asked another representative. "How to die slower." Tejo's eyes were cold. How to win. On the Velthar flagship, Krevenas watched Earth's military mobilize. It was pointless but admirable. These humans had courage, at least. "Should we begin the invasion, sir?" asked Sub-Commander Thren. Krevenas considered it. His fleet could destroy every major city in 6 hours. Complete conquest would take perhaps 3 days. Earth had nothing that could truly threaten them, but something made him hesitate. He pulled up the surveillance feed of Una Park again. A habit he had developed over the past few hours thought she was not at home anymore. She had left her apartment 2 hours ago. The drones tracked her through Seoul's streets. She walked calmly, like she was just going to meet a friend for coffee. She stopped in a small shop and bought flowers. Yellow chrysanthemums. Then she went to a cemetery. Krevenas watched as she knelt beside a grave and placed the flowers gently. She sat there for a long time, not moving, just looking at the stone. The camera zoomed in enough to read the name. Park Min-ho, 1995 to 2021. "Who is that?" Krevenas asked. His intelligence officer checked Earth's databases. "Her brother, sir. Killed in a military training accident 4 years ago." Krevenas watched Una touch the gravestone, her expression soft, human, vulnerable. This was the most dangerous person on Earth. She looked like any other person grieving a lost family member. Then she stood up, brushed off her pants, and started walking back toward the city. Her expression changed as she walked. The softness disappeared. Her face became neutral again, empty. The mask was back on. "She's returning to her apartment," the surveillance officer reported, but Krevenas noticed something. Una was not taking the direct route home. She was walking through different streets, turning at odd intervals, pausing at random shops. It looked casual, but it was not. "She's checking for surveillance," Krevenas realized. "Impossible, sir. Our drones are invisible to their technology. Then why is she doing counter-surveillance sweeps?" No one had an answer. Una arrived back at her apartment building. She climbed the stairs instead of using the elevator. She paused at her door, looking up and down the hallway before entering. Once inside, she closed all her curtains. The surveillance drones could no longer see her clearly. "Switch to thermal imaging," Krevenas ordered. The screen changed to show heat signatures. Una's body appeared as a bright shape, moving through her apartment. She went to her kitchen, made more tea, then sat at her table. Then her heat signature vanished. "What?" Thren leaned forward. "Where did she go?" The thermal camera showed nothing. No heat signature. Like she had ceased to exist. "Equipment malfunction?" suggested one officer, but Krevenas knew better. "She's blocking our sensors somehow." "She knows we're watching. How could she possibly know, sir?" Krevenas stared at the empty screen. How indeed? Their surveillance technology was centuries beyond anything humans had. There was no way she could detect it, unless... Pull up her file again. Every mission. I want to know every detail. The file appeared. Most of it was still redacted, but one phrase appeared repeatedly in the available sections. Undetected infiltration. Avoided all surveillance systems. No trace left behind. This human specialized in not being seen. She had spent years learning how to hide from advanced technology, and now she was using those skills against them. "Find her," Krevenas ordered. Use every sensor we have." The officers worked frantically. Visual, thermal, electromagnetic, quantum scanners. Nothing showed Una Park in her apartment. She had simply vanished. "Sir, she might have left through a back exit. Then find her in the city." Drones spread across Seoul, searching. Traffic cameras were hacked. Security systems were accessed. The Velthara searched everywhere for one small human woman. They found nothing. 3 hours passed. Krevinas grew more agitated. How could one person evade an entire fleet's surveillance system? Then his communication officer spoke up. "Sir, we're receiving a request from Earth." "What kind of request?" "They want to send an envoy. Someone to speak with you directly. Face to face." Krevinas was suspicious. "Who?" The officer checked the message. "Lieutenant Unipark." The bridge fell silent. Everyone turned to look at Krevinas. "She wants to come here?" Thren asked. "To this ship?" Krevinas stared at the message. The most dangerous human on Earth wanted to meet him. The same human who had just vanished from all their sensors wanted to walk onto his flagship voluntarily died. It was obviously a trap. But what kind of trap? She was one person. One small human with no weapons, no technology, no backup. What could she possibly do on a ship filled with thousands of Velthara warriors? But then he remembered her file. Mission 17. 0 enemy casualties. Mission 23. Prisoner extracted without anyone noticing. Mission 31. Terrorist cell disbanded through conversation alone. Unipark did not fight like a warrior. She fought like something else. Something more dangerous. "Accept the request," Krevinas heard himself say. "Sir?" Thren looked shocked. "That's extremely unwise." "I know. Do it anyway. But scan her thoroughly. Every weapon detector we have. If she's carrying anything dangerous, we turn her away." "And if she's clean?" Krevinas smiled grimly. "Then we finally get to see what Earth's #1 can do." 2 hours later, a small transport shuttle landed in Seoul's Central Plaza. Citizens fled in panic. Police tried to establish a perimeter. News cameras broadcast everything lived to the world. And through it all, Unipark walked calmly toward the alien craft. She wore simple civilian clothes. Jeans and a light jacket. No uniform. No visible weapons. Her hands were empty, held loosely at her sides. She looked small next to the Velthora soldiers who emerged from the shuttle. They were each 3 meters tall, covered in bioarmor, carrying energy weapons. They surrounded her like giants around a child. "I'm here to see your commander," Una said simply. The soldiers scanned her with multiple devices. Energy scanners. Molecular detectors. Quantum analyzers. Every scan came back negative. No weapons. No explosives. No technology at all. "She's clean," one soldier reported. They escorted her into the shuttle. The doors closed and the craft lifted off, carrying Unipark up toward the flagship. On Earth, people watched in horror and awe. What was she doing? How could this help? She was flying into the heart of the enemy fleet alone. But in the UN building, Admiral Tae-ho Kim watched the broadcast with a small smile. Commander Hyun-soo Choi stood beside him, looking confused. "Sir, shouldn't we stop her?" "Stop her?" Tae-ho shook his head. "No one stops Una when she's made a decision. But she's just one person. What can she do?" Tae-ho's smile widened slightly. "I don't know. That's what makes her so effective. No one ever knows what she's going to do. Not the enemy. Not her allies. Sometimes I don't think even she knows until the moment arrives." The shuttle docked with the flagship. Velthara soldiers led Una through corridors of metal and strange technology. She looked around with mild interest, like a tourist seeing a new city. not like a prisoner walking into enemy territory. They brought her to the command chamber. The doors opened, and she stepped inside. Krevna stood in the center of the vast room. He was enormous, nearly twice her height, 4 arms folded across his chest. His orange eyes glowed in the dim light. Around him, dozens of officers and soldiers watched, weapons ready. Yuna looked up at the warlord and bowed politely. A small, respectful bow, like greeting an elder. "Warlord Krevenas," she said. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Her voice was calm, almost casual, like this was a business meeting, not a confrontation that could end with her death. Krevenas studied her. She was even smaller in person than in the photographs. Delicate, almost. But her eyes, those eyes were different. They looked at him without fear, without anger, just assessment, like she was measuring him. "You are Yuna Park," Krevenas said. "Earth's most dangerous individual. According to our records, yes, you don't look dangerous." Yuna smiled slightly. "You're not the first person to say that. Or the 47th. There was something in the way she said it. A quiet confidence. Like she was referencing something specific. "You came here alone," Krevenas continued. "Why? To talk? About surrender?" "No." Earth's apex list appeared on screen. The alien reached number 1 and looked at her. Command chamber fell silent after Yuna's words. Velthara soldiers shifted uncomfortably, hands moving toward their weapons. Krevenas raised one hand, stopping them. "That sounds like a threat," the warlord said carefully. Yuna shook her head. "Not a threat. Just an observation. You scanned me for weapons. You found none. That was smart. But you made one assumption." "What assumption?" "That the weapon is separate from the person carrying it." Krevenas felt cold, despite the warm air of the command chamber. "Explain." Yuna walked slowly around the room, looking at the various control stations. The soldiers tracked her movement, but she ignored them completely. She stopped at a display showing Earth from orbit. "Beautiful planet," she said softly. "Worth protecting." Then she turned back to Krevenas. "Your scans were thorough. Energy weapons?" "None." "Explosives?" "None." "Biological agents?" "None." "You were looking for things, objects, tools, and you found exactly what you were supposed to find. Nothing." She smiled that small smile again. "But you never scanned for information." Sub-Commander Thren stepped forward. "Information? What are you talking about?" "Your ship uses biological integration systems," Yuna said, gesturing around the chamber. "I saw it in the database you sent when you first arrived. Your technology interfaces with living tissue. It's very advanced. Your soldiers have bioports that connect directly to the ship's systems. Very efficient." Krevenas' blood went cold. "How do you know that?" "Because I've been studying your transmissions since you arrived. Every message you sent. Every scan you performed. Your technology leaves signatures. And humans are very good at reading signatures." "That's impossible," Thren insisted. "Our encryption is unbreakable by our technology," Yuna interrupted. "You're right. We can't decode your messages, but we can analyze them. Pattern recognition, data flow, system architecture. I've spent 3 days studying how your technology works." "3 days is nothing," Krevenas said. "Our empire has existed for 10,000 years. You cannot understand our systems in 3 days." "You're right again. I don't understand all of it. Just enough." "Enough for what?" Yuna looked down at her hands. "When I walked onto this ship, your scanners read me as organic. A human female, 62 kilograms, no weapons. All true. But they categorize me as safe biological entity. Just another piece of living matter." She looked up at Crevenus, and her eyes had changed. They were harder now, focused. But I'm not just organic matter. Humans discovered something interesting 20 years ago. We learned how to store data in DNA, billions of gigabytes in a single gram of biological material. We use it for archives, libraries, medical records. Crevenus felt his hands clench into fists. No. Yes. My bloodstream contains 17 billion bytes of coded data. Encrypted, dormant, harmless. Your bioscanners read it as genetic material because that's what it is. But it's also a payload. What kind of payload? Thren demanded. A virus. Not biological. Digital. Designed specifically for systems that integrate organic and technological components. Like yours. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Officers shouted. Displays flickered. Crevenus saw his tactical officer frantically working the controls. Sir, we're detecting unauthorized access in the biointegration network. How? Crevenus roared. She hasn't touched anything. She didn't need to, Una said calmly. Your air filtration system scans every person who enters this ship. It samples the air we breathe, analyzes our biology, checks for diseases. It's a safety protocol. Very sensible. Thren stared at her in horror. You weaponized your breath. More accurately, I weaponized your caution. When your systems scan me, they absorb trace organic compounds. Skin cells, water vapor from my lungs. All normal. All expected. But mixed in with those compounds were bioencoded data fragments. Your own scanners carried the virus into your systems. Shut down all biointegration ports. Crevenus commanded. Too late, Una said. The virus is already in your network. It's replicating through every connected system. And this isn't just your ship. Crevenus felt sick. The fleet. Your flagship is the command hub. Every ship in your fleet connects to it. Data flows constantly between them. By now, the virus has spread to at least 60% of your vessels. Screens throughout the command chamber went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in. More alarms joined the first. The ship shuddered. What is it doing? Crevenus demanded. Right now? Just mapping your systems. Learning. But it can do much more. Una pulled a small device from her pocket. The soldiers immediately raised their weapons. Wait, she said, holding up her other hand. This isn't a weapon. Your scanners already checked it. It's just a phone. A communication device. Put it down. Thren ordered. I will. But first, let me show you something. She tapped the screen. On the main display, an image appeared. Technical schematics. Weapons systems. Shield generators. Navigation. Everything. That's our, Thren started. Your complete technical database. Yes, I now have access to everything. Every system on every ship. Weapons, life support, propulsion, communications. All of it. Una looked at Crevenus. I could shut down your fleet right now. Leave you drifting in space, powerless. Then why don't you? Crevenus asked quietly. Because I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to educate you. Educate? Una put her phone back in her pocket. You came to Earth expecting primitive beings. You saw our technology and thought us weak. You reviewed our database and dismissed our threats. You looked at me and saw a small, harmless woman. She walked closer to Crevenus, looking up at the massive alien. But you never asked the important question. How did humanity survive this long? We have no armor plating. No energy weapons. No faster-than-light travel. We're soft, weak, slow. By all rights, we should have gone extinct millions of years ago. So how did you survive? Crevenus asked, genuinely curious now. By being smarter than everything trying to kill us. by adapting faster than our predators, by turning every weakness into a strength. You see a human and think fragile. We see ourselves and think adaptable. You scan me and find no weapons. We design weapons you can't scan. You're just one person, Thren said. Even if you've compromised our fleet, Earth still can't win. We have ground forces. You have nothing, Yuna interrupted. Because I'm not just one person. I'm the proof of concept. Krevenas understood immediately. There are others, 147 others, all trained the same way I was, all carrying similar payloads, different viruses for different systems. Right now, they're spread across your fleet. 23 have already infiltrated your ships under various pretenses. Maintenance workers, diplomats, refugees seeking asylum. Your soldiers scanned them all, found nothing dangerous, and infected your systems. The command chamber was chaos now. Officers shouted reports. Systems failed and restarted. The ship's power fluctuated. Krevenas looked at this small human woman who had brought his entire fleet to its knees with nothing but information and patience. Why are you telling me this? He asked. You could have kept silent. Destroyed us. Because I want you to understand something, Yuna said. Earth isn't asking for mercy. We're not begging you to leave. We're explaining why you should. Explain. You've conquered 300 species. Congratulations. But every one of those species fought you the way you expected. With weapons. With armies. With force. She gestured around the failing command chamber. We don't fight that way. We fight in ways you can't predict. Can't scan. Can't defend against. You fight dirty, Thren said with disgust. We fight smart, Yuna corrected. And we never stop. You could destroy our cities. Kill billions of us. But the survivors would study your technology. Learn from it. Adapt to it. And eventually, we would find a way to beat you. Because that's what humans do. We solve problems. And right now, you're a problem. Krevenas felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Respect. Not for strength or power, but for pure ingenuity. What do you want? He asked. Leave our system. Tell your empire that Earth is not worth conquering. Tell them we're too troublesome. Too unpredictable. Too dangerous. And if we refuse? Yuna's expression didn't change, but her voice became colder. Then I activate the second stage of the virus. Your weapon systems will target each other. Your ships will fire on themselves. Your entire fleet will be destroyed by its own firepower. And I'll walk off this ship and go home to water my plants. You're bluffing. I never bluff. That's why I'm number one. Krevenas believed her. He could see it in her eyes. This human would destroy 200 ships and thousands of lives without hesitation if it meant protecting her planet. Not because she was cruel, but because it was necessary. You could have destroyed us already, he said. Why give us the choice? Because we're not monsters, Yuna said softly. We don't want to kill you. We just want you to leave. Your soldiers are following orders. They don't deserve to die for their commander's mistake. But they will die if you force my hand. Krevenas looked around his dying ship. Then he looked at Yuna Park, Earth's most dangerous individual. The woman who didn't carry weapons because she didn't need them. Who didn't need an army because she was an army of one. You win, he said quietly. No, Yuna replied. We survive. There's a difference. Earth's apex list appeared on screen. The alien reached number 1 and looked at her. Krevenas stood in his damaged command chamber and made the hardest decision of his career. He looked at Sub-Commander Thren and spoke in their own language, words Yuna couldn't understand. But she didn't need to. She could read the defeat in his posture. Begin withdrawal protocols. Crevinus ordered in English for Yuna's benefit. All ships. We're leaving this system, sir. Thren protested. We cannot. We can. And we will. Crevinus' voice was firm. Send the order. Officers moved reluctantly to their stations. Communications went out across the fleet. 200 ships began to power down weapons. Engines prepared for departure. Yuna pulled out her phone again. I'm deactivating the virus now. Your systems will recover in approximately 4 hours. You'll have full functionality by then. You're just turning it off? Thren asked suspiciously. What's to stop us from attacking once we're repaired? Nothing, Yuna said simply. Except the knowledge that I can activate it again any time. The virus is dormant now, but it's still in your systems. Still replicating. Still waiting. If you come back to Earth, it wakes up. And next time, there won't be a warning. Crevinus nodded slowly. A leash. Insurance, Yuna corrected. We don't want to control you. We just want to be left alone. And the virus in the other ships? Same deal. Dormant but present. Your entire fleet is compromised. If you attack Earth, you lose everything. She paused. But if you honor your withdrawal, the virus will delete itself in 30 days. No trace, no threat. Why 30 days? Asked Crevinus. Because that's how long it takes to leave our solar system at your current speed. Once you're far enough away, you're no longer a threat. And we keep our promises. Crevinus studied her face. You planned all of this. We planned for many scenarios. This was option 7. What was option 1? Yuna smiled slightly. Surrender peacefully and accept reasonable terms. You didn't choose that one. Despite everything, Crevinus laughed. A deep, rumbling sound. No, I suppose we didn't. He gestured to his guards. Escort Lieutenant Park back to the shuttle. Make sure she arrives home safely. You're not going to kill me? Yuna asked. I just crippled your entire fleet. If I killed you, what would happen? The virus would activate automatically. My death is the trigger. Of course it is. Crevinus shook his head. You think of everything. That's my job. 2 soldiers led Yuna toward the exit. She stopped at the door and looked back at Crevinus. For what it's worth, she said, you made the right choice. Your soldiers will live. Your ships will recover. And you'll have an interesting story to tell your empire. What story is that? The day you met humanity and decided we weren't worth the trouble. Yuna left the command chamber. The soldiers escorted her through the ship's corridors. She noticed they kept more distance now. No longer treating her like a prisoner, but like something dangerous they didn't want to touch. The shuttle ride back to Earth was quiet. Yuna looked out the window at the vast alien fleet. Ships were already beginning to move, turning away from the planet. Engines glowing as they prepared to leave. When the shuttle landed in Seoul's Central Plaza, thousands of people had gathered. They stood in silence, watching. When Yuna stepped out of the craft, alone and unharmed, the crowd erupted. Cheering, crying, shouting her name. She walked through them quietly, nodding politely but not stopping. Security cleared a path. News cameras followed her every step. But she just kept walking, heading home. At the UN building. Admiral Tae-ho Kim watched the broadcast with Commander Hyun-soo Choi and Dr. Ji-won Lee. They saw Yuna disappear into the crowd, refusing interviews, declining to make statements. She did it, Ji-won whispered. She actually did it. Did you doubt her? Tae-ho asked. Yes, I thought she was insane. Walking onto that ship alone. She wasn't alone, Tae-ho said. She was carrying every advantage humanity has. Knowledge, preparation, the willingness to take calculated risks. He smiled. And a complete lack of respect for impossible odds. Hyun-soo shook his head in amazement. I've done 47 missions. 47 impossible extractions. I thought I understood what it meant to be at the top of the list. And now? Now I understand why I'm only number 5. On the Velthara flagship, systems slowly came back online. Engineers worked to repair the damage. Crevenus stood alone in his private quarters, looking at Earth through the viewport. The planet was so small, so blue and green and fragile, but it had beaten him. One person from that planet had walked onto his ship and taken control of his entire fleet using nothing but cleverness and preparation. He pulled up Yuna's file one more time. The photo stared back at him, calm, unremarkable, absolutely terrifying. Update the Empire database, Crevenus said to his personal computer. Earth, human species. New classification. Specify classification. The computer responded. Crevenus thought for a moment. Species of extreme interest. Recommendation. Avoid contact. Threat level. Asymmetric. Additional notes? Yes. Add this. The humans rank their most dangerous individuals. They are accurate. Never underestimate them. Never judge by appearance. And never, ever invite them onto your ship. The computer processed the information. Entry updated. Crevenus took one last look at Earth before his ship turned away and began the long journey home. In 40 years of conquest, he had never retreated, never fled, never admitted defeat. But there was a first time for everything. And soul. Yuna finally made it back to her apartment. She climbed the stairs, unlocked her door, and stepped inside. The first thing she did was open all the curtains. Let the surveillance drones see her again. She had nothing left to hide. She made tea and sat by her window, watching the alien fleet grow smaller in the sky. Ship by ship, they departed. Some fired their engines and accelerated away. Others moved slowly, limping, still damaged. Her phone rang. It was Admiral Kim. Yuna, the president wants to meet you. Give you a medal. Probably several medals. I don't need medals, she said. The world needs to thank you properly. The world can thank me by staying alive. That's enough. Tejo sighed. You know you're a hero now. Everyone knows your face. Your name. You can't just go back to normal life. Watch me. She hung up. The phone rang again immediately. She turned it off. Outside her window, the last of the alien ships vanished into the dark sky. Earth was safe. For now. There would be other threats, other challenges. But humanity had survived this one because they were adaptable, clever, willing to think in ways others didn't expect, and because they had people like Yuna Park. The next morning, Earth woke up to a changed world. The alien fleet was gone. News channels showed footage of the ships departing. Scientists analyzed the event. Politicians made speeches about human resilience and unity. But in a small apartment in Seoul, Yuna Park watered her plants and read her book. Her neighbor, Mrs. Hae Won-an, an elderly woman who lived next door, knocked on the door. Yuna dear, did you see all the excitement yesterday? Hae-won asked, holding a plate of homemade cookies. I saw some of it, Yuna said, accepting the cookies with a smile. Terrible business, those aliens. But they left. Isn't that wonderful? I heard some brave soldiers scared them away. That's what I heard too. Good. Now we can all go back to normal. Hae-won patted Yuna's arm. You look tired, dear. Are you sleeping enough? I'll sleep better now, Yuna said honestly. After Hae-won left, Yuna returned to her window. The sky was clear and blue. No alien ships. No threat. Just a normal day on Earth. She thought about Crevenus. Wondered if he would keep his word. If the Velthara Empire would truly leave Earth alone. She hoped so. She didn't want to activate that virus again. But if she had to, She would, without hesitation, because that was the job. That was why she was number one, not because she was the strongest, not because she enjoyed fighting, but because she understood something fundamental about survival. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one nobody sees coming. Her phone buzzed. She had turned it back on out of habit. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. Just 3 words in English. Impressive, Unipark. She stared at the message. It had come from outside Earth's communication network. From space. From the Velthar Fleet. KREV, single quotes, NAS. She typed a reply. Come back, and I'll be even more impressive. A moment later, another message. I believe you. We won't return. You have my word. Una smiled and deleted the conversation. She believed him too. Not because he was honorable, but because he was smart. And smart beings didn't make the same mistake twice. She finished her tea and went to take a nap. For the first time in 3 days, she could sleep without planning, without calculating, without preparing for war. Earth was safe. And Unipark could go back to being just another person living a quiet life in Seoul, walking through markets, reading books, visiting her brother's grave with fresh flowers, being normal until the next time humanity needed someone to do the impossible. Then she would be ready. She was always ready, because that's what it meant to be number one.